If World War III ever became reality, where would you actually be safe? If I could choose to go anywhere in the world during World War III, you guys want to know where I'm going? If I could teleport anywhere and I'm there, Afghanistan, baby. The World War III already happened, bro. That's the last place anyone's ever gonna want to go.
As tensions continue to rise across the globe, it's starting to feel like World War III isn't a question of if, but when. U.S. relations with, well, pretty much everyone have soured. Russia is still dragging out its 3-day special military operation years later, and China is flexing its muscles.
Why they make China the small one? China the biggest one. Bro's helping China out. They're trying to deceive us right now.
Survival might depend entirely on where you are. The white sand beaches of Fiji might sound like the perfect vacation getaway, but when the bombs start to fall, what makes it worth hiding out there?
I'm not going anywhere where a tsunami can just take all my shit out. I'm not going to live in any forest area. Why? Because there's going to be war, bombs, fires. Ain't no fire department coming to help you, man.
If you're in East Asia or the Pacific region, you'll want to first get away from the countries along what geostrategists call the First Island Chain, which goes from Japan to the Indonesian archipelago. The most intense battles in this theater would take place there, because this is the first line of defense for the US and its allies to contain China's military
Alaska,
aims.
you're
China
fucked.
has to break through this barrier to secure its trade.
Let me know down below in the chat, only with the weapon systems you own right now. You can't go imaginary buy a tank with a 50 cal machine gun. With what you have right now, what weapon system are you grabbing or putting together? By default, I'm picking my Bin Laden sleeping pill. Y'all know that. 5.56 is a pretty common today.
Fiji is far from the front lines and far down on the list of targets. Although it has close ties to Washington, no one would bat an eye if Suva declared its neutrality, at least at first. After all, its military only has about 4,000 individuals with a reserve force of 6,000 personnel.
You're dead.
In terms of distance, Australia is the closest of the belligerent powers, and it's almost 2,900 miles, 4,600 kilometers away.
How far can artillery shoot? A howitzer can do like 25 miles. Okay, shit. I was going to be like, we're going to shoot artillery on your island and kill you. It's not going to work. We're going to get hella cruise ships and we're just going to torpedo your island.
You'd have plenty to survive on out here.
Resources.
Fiji has about 300 islands in its total territory, so you can cruise around and enjoy catching the abundant fish. Fishermen catch over 36,000 tons of them every year.
Bro, what is this? Assassin's Creed Black Flag? You're not sailing island to island gathering supplies. The one dude who has a bigger boat than you is just going to run you over. You're done. The mass panic is what's going to kill everybody in World War III. They're going to turn it into not World War III, but apocalypse mode. And they're going to be killing their neighbors and stuff.
So Fiji's pretty safe, but after hearing that, you might want a tropical getaway that could be even safer. How about Tuvalu? It's 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers to the north, so it'll be even further away from any major
one atomic bomb. You're done. Hey, give us all your resources and join our country in World War III. No.
If Tuvalu stays as it is now, the strategy to contain China is probably working. If Chinese planes are a routine sight in the skies and ships are moving around offshore, it's a sign that you should book a flight to somewhere else. The last thing you want to be is trapped
book a
behind
flight.
Chinese
Getting on the
lines
plane is
in
the
World
last
War
thing I want to
III.
do. I'd say if World War III kicks off, after the first week, I'm never jumping on a plane again. Why? 9/11 unclaimed. A bunch of aircraft are going to get, civilian aircraft are going to get shot at the sky. I'm good.
In New Zealand, on paper, this looks like it wouldn't be such a great choice. Aside from being in the island chain, New Zealand is a treaty ally of the United States. Even so, the country—
You guys are in between the three countries fighting. You're collateral damage. You know in Afghanistan when we dropped the bomb on a terrorist house and we're like, fuck, it also blew up the school next door and everyone died? When the whole countries are fighting, you're the school now. I'm not going anywhere that's in between stuff.
When it comes to the Pacific region, this is probably the safest and most comfortable place for you to be. But it's called World War III for a reason. Emphasis on the word world. With Russia also involved, all of Eastern Europe between the Baltic and the Black Sea would be a major battleground. Anywhere east of Germany would be in huge danger.
Dude, Germany is fucked. Germany, you're not looking real hot right now, bro. We had a very good run last time, you know. We did super good.
Russia has borders that are pretty much impossible to defend, which is kind of a problem in a war. Since geography is destiny,
y'all got
Putin's
polar
top
bears,
World War
man.
III goals would be to extend Russian influence as far west as he can.
The fact that Russia is so undefendable over here to the north, they're probably going to be like, whatever, set up positions back. The elements are brutal in Russia. Like, you ain't going to make it, man. You're not tough like that.
The Soviet Union out of this. But we've already seen how he makes up for these shortcomings. Every major city in Europe would be a target for his missiles and drones. The further east you are...
Ooh, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna die. That's probably gonna be one of the first targets, is all the drone facts. That way we don't have to deal with drone warfare. That would suck. Because then whatever companies keep the drone factories safe, that's the company that's gonna win the war, no?
Greenland isn't really green, since 80% of it is covered in ice. Average winter temperatures here get to -0.4 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 below Celsius on the thermometer.
Nah, y'all can have that one.
Places going as low as -58, -50 Celsius. Yeah, it won't be pleasant, but that's exactly the point. Because it's unlikely that anyone would fight too hard for a place that's 80% ice.
Bro, you want to know why it would piss me off to fight on ice, bro? Like in an ice place? I am terrified I'm going to be walking on like a lake I don't know about. I'm going to fall through the ice and die.
Go further east on the map, to the Russian port of Murmansk, and you'll see one of the many problems with that country's geography. To break out into the open ocean, Russia would need to cross the GIUK line. It's sort of like the first island chain for this part of the world. NATO would want to keep Russia behind that line.
I should know these things, but I don't. I really don't even know what the purpose is anymore of NATO and the UN. Those treaties don't make sense to me because you have shit like the Ukraine and Russia war. We exist. Let's not do anything. Like, what's the point?
Further south lie the Canary Islands, which are part of Spain. The Canaries get 3,000 hours of sunlight a year, more than any other place in Europe. Typical temperatures are in the 60s and 70s, 17 to 26 Celsius year-round. But what can you survive on?
Yeah, overall
here?
theme of the video,
Canaries...
if you can't catch fish and you don't eat fish, you don't like fish, you're going to die. We're just going to poison the water. 9/11 of the seas, they say.
You can bet that the Middle East would see fighting too. The always troubled Crescent.
They still got oil there? Better not.
So if you're going to the African continent, the entire Mediterranean coastline would be in danger. Instead, you'll want to head south.
The reason there's so much chaos and war is you have to complete that mission. So you have to do guerrilla warfare tactics, utilize unorthodox methods, and there is chaos because there's no right way of doing it. You have to just suffer, figure it out, and get it done.
As a part of the BRICS framework, South Africa is generally aligned with China and Russia, but it probably wouldn't want to get involved in a world war so far to the north if it didn't have to.
If we could take South Africa, that would be awesome. The resources in South Africa is crazy.
When you get there, you'll be able to enjoy the comfortable Mediterranean climate, with average temperatures getting to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 26.
Yeah, it's so great. Load shedding, no electricity. Kill white people down there in South Africa for fun. Oh, you're a farmer? Giant machete.
Hiding out there isn't an option anymore. South America is a good bet, though. No country here is likely to be dragged into
Amazon
World War III,
rainforest.
at least for
no. Ooh, here's a thought, right? What if we used hella radioactive nukes, right? If we want to protect the U.S. and you got to get here via plane or boat, what if we put nukes way outside of U.S. waters to where the radiation doesn't hit land masses or beaches, but the radiation sits out there, so the boats and planes got to go through the radiation. They're going to get radification. One seagull, fucking bah, 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 bah.
Chile's geography makes it almost perfectly suited for surviving World War III. Its coastline of almost 4,000 miles, 6,400 kilometers.
The problem with Chile, if I drop a bomb right here, boom, in the middle. The country is literally separated. It's cut in half. Let me see, what other World War III stuff can we just like throw into this? This is fun. So we get to add this one on. This one's from the infographic show. Putin's nuclear button is a lie. Here's how it actually works.
On today's episode of the infographic show, we're breaking down why Putin's nuclear threat is more complicated than even he realizes. So let's clear up this myth. Hollywood loves to show nuclear war as one man pressing a very big red button.
Immediate interruption. You want to know the main problem with the whole nuclear theory now is like once AI is officially applied to war is going to change and it's going to be way worse. It's going to be absolutely terrible. Russia tried to launch a nuclear bomb And the guy who had to clicky the button to send the nuke said, no, I don't believe this is happening.
But it's also important to remember the timeline involved in a Russian nuclear launch. The entire system is built around a 10-minute authorization window. It takes longer to pick a movie on Netflix than for satellites to spot the incoming warheads,
God.
the Kremlin to panic.
Bro, do you guys run the same problem as me? Is like, once my TV show is like done, or like I watch the one new movie on Netflix that pops up every 5 months, bro, I'd just be half an hour. I don't know what to watch before bed. The best way to fall asleep is to look for something to watch on Netflix.
Perfectly innocent scientific experiment in Norway nearly lit the fuse on World War III. Norwegian scientists launched a Black Brant 12 rocket to study the northern lights. The scientists didn't really take into account the fact that their missile's flight path looked suspiciously similar to a U.S. Trident nuclear missile screaming over the pole. And yet, despite hair-trigger systems, Russia didn't launch. Because even with everything primed, the structure required multiple confirmations.
Dude, imagine you're taking a poop, like a dirty one, and then you got to go push this button. It ain't nowhere near you. They run in the bathroom like, hey, this is it. Shit's in the... gots to wipe. It's one of those bad ones. It's going to take like 30 wipes. Like, give me time. We don't have time. You just over here pushing the button, waiting for the last guy to push the button.
He was sitting at his day job at a Soviet radar station in 1983, about to take his lunch break, when out of nowhere, the warning klaxons began to scream. This was unanticipated and unexpected. An utterly chilling alarm warning that 5 Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles had been launched by the United States, and they were headed his way. Petrov had trained for this exact moment. His job was to pick up the phone, report the launch, and set into motion a chain that could unleash 36,000 Soviet warheads.
36,000 nuclear warheads? That is just enough warheads for my ocean barrier plant. This is perfect.
This struck him as a computer glitch. He wasn't sure why, but his gut told him so. And then, against orders and instinct, he dismissed the warning outright as a malfunction. And he was right. The satellites had actually mistaken sunlight glinting off the clouds.
Wait, is this the guy we're talking about?
Exhaust. And that was only the most recent account of a Soviet officer literally saving the entire world.
Russia, you gotta stop. You gotta stop every 2 months. Hey, y'all got to stop. So premature.
We have heard of the Cuban Missile Crisis. American spy planes had revealed Soviet missile sites in Cuba, and President Kennedy imposed a naval quarantine around the island. Deep below, aboard the Soviet submarine B-59, the crew had no idea these blasts were intended as messages.
These warning bombs are just warnings. They will kill you, though.
Captain Valentin Savitsky, convinced that they were under attack, ordered the sub's nuclear torpedo armed. His political officer agreed. Only Vasily Arkhipov stood in the way. He argued that the Americans weren't trying to kill them, only flush them out.
Russia, why are y'all pinning? Why? Dude, every time they're convinced the U.S. is trying to kill. Back-to-back World War champs. If we want to win, we gonna fucking win, okay? We don't need these excuses. Just stop. You're gonna just start another war, you're gonna lose again. That being said, we are back-to-back World War champs, but we do need to go back to Vietnam. Unfinished business.
Finally, Savitsky relented and surfaced. No one outside of the Kremlin knew at the time, but Arkipov's calm defiance may have been the single decision that kept October 1962 from becoming the end of history.
Again, bro, we got to give these people like millions and millions of dollars.
If the Soviet nuclear command system manages to slow
that
things
is so
down
not
with
Russian
triple
paranoia.
briefcases
It's
and
Russia's
cranky
like
colonels,
want
Putin's
for
Russia
power
adds
right now.
another
It's so
tricky
bad.
and
The thing is, when is America ever really like, initially attacking anybody? We don't initially be attacking, but we finish that shit. Hey, Russia, I'm going to tell y'all one piece of advice, though. Never say you have oil. That's the one time we are going to come full throttle for your ass.
dictating history with the flick of a wrist. But the reality is, even Putin must operate inside a web of fragile dependencies. The first hurdle is Putin's main source of support, Russia's billionaires. These so-called oligarchs are the oxygen line to Russia's economy. Men like Oleg Deripaska, a metals magnate who always tried to straddle the line between Moscow and Western markets.
How long do you think the war against Russia would last realistically? Like, if we dead ass went toe-to-toe war with Russia, when you become a counterintelligence agent, the top 3 countries you are taught to watch immediately right off the bat: Russia, China, Iran. Those are your top 3 at all times. Toe-to-toe war with Russia, less than a year. Hard to really say because a lot of it depends on the Russian people. If you guys want to ask who's going to end the war between America and the U.S., it's not going to be America. It is going to be the Russian populace who will help us win that war. So you'll see on the internet, like a lot of people who talk about America, they're like, oh, Americans are stupid, they're dumb, they're fat, they're ugly, we don't like America, they're like whatever. They nonchalant America, right? It's just the way it is. You've seen, just let alone the amount of possible nuclear things that would have unfolded in the United States, right? But what did they say? No, it's the U.S. All these high-ranking officials, these people with common sense, they go, well, the U.S. wouldn't do that. And even if they did, they know it's kind of fucked already, right? Having their own thing with this smaller country, Ukraine, right now, right? Very small. America is fucking huge. Way bigger than Ukraine, right? So now imagine the resources, people, and all this shit they would need now to go against the United States. The populace is going to be aware of that. And that leads to number two. This guy has been in charge of Russia a long time, and he already started a big war with Ukraine, and now he's starting even bigger war with the United States, and that's going to cause a lot of heads in Russia to turn. Nobody's going to go, yeah, it's time for America to get out the way. That is not going to happen. And so that's all I'm saying. I think the people in Russia, like there would be a coup or a massive revolt. And I think he'd probably be taken out by his own. There's been thousands of like attempts to end his life from his own people. And I think that would only like spike it through the roof. American people at this current time in society are easily offended. And one thing we've always been taught, anybody who is easily offended is easily manipulated. And Russia is really good at manipulating. They're really good at propaganda and stuff like that. They're not as good at Mildeck as we are, so their propaganda would take over our systems, and we'll be protests in the street for America to stop going to war with Russia, and there's a lot of blah, 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 blah. But that's what I'm saying. The Russian people would help us out more than anything. That is my $1 million or my million-year rant that I am trying to get rid of.